Good afternoon, I'm Karen Holmes Ward. Welcome to Cityline. Later in the program, two cultural happenings on view now that will transport you to South Africa. But we start in Boston's North End. Boston is a city rich in history, fabled tales passed on from generation to generation, but history is complicated. Now the Old North Church is reckoning with its past, revealing a more complete and accurate picture of its origins and the connection of prominent members of its congregation to human trafficking, slavery, and the 18th century chocolate trade. Boston's North End, famous for its vibrant culture, delicious food, and rich history. At the center of that history, resting quietly at the top of a hill on Salem Street, is the historic Old North Church. Best known for its role in the American Revolution and as the landmark immortalized by the famous line, "One if by land, two if by sea," this celebrated house of worship sits on the eve of its 300th anniversary. But the Old North Church has a new history to tell.
When we think about the types of stories that we tell at Old North Church, which obviously is most famous for the events leading up to April 18th, 1775, and two if by sea, lanterns in the steeple, represents literally 1 minute in 300 years of history. We have to begin telling a more complete and a more accurate picture of our history.
Nikki Stewart is the executive director of the Old North Church Foundation. She explains how the historic site will adopt a new, reimagined history that focuses on the church's more controversial figures and their direct ties to the exploitation of enslaved labor. Like prominent 18th century businessman Captain Newark Jackson, whose success was based on a criminal enterprise.
Captain Jackson was an early congregant of Old North, a donor and a financer of the early congregation as well. He had locally a chocolate shop in which he used enslaved labor to produce the chocolate goods that were sold. He was also involved in an illegal smuggling ring between Boston and Suriname that involved both the commodification of enslaved Africans and the production and shipment of cacao as well.
Even some of the church's most iconic architectural features, which have stood as a symbol of liberty and freedom for hundreds of years, are undeniably intertwined with the blood and sweat of slave labor.
This pew was reserved for the use of the gentlemen of the Bay of Honduras. We call it the Bay Pew. So when the church was initially built, funds were lacking for things like the bells and the organ and the steeple. And a group of traders and merchants called the Gentlemen of the Bay of Honduras donated a shipment of logwood to the church. It was a very valuable commodity, and it was used in the production of dyes and textiles. And so the church was able to sell that shipment of logwood and fund the bulk of the work that was needed to build the steeple.
The Old North Church Foundation hopes that this change of focus and reimagined history of the church will provide a more introspective lens through which its visitors may view this country's history.
So much of what we learn as children or in school is really a mythologized version of events, right? It's like George Washington and the cherry tree. So we hope that people start to think about historical figures as real people who were flawed and who were in complex situations, and that we can think about our history critically and still be, very patriotic Americans who are proud of our country.
Along with these changes, the foundation will also be offering a virtual exhibit to be used in classrooms called Cacao and Colonial Chocolate, which will be used to teach students about the chocolate industry in Boston during the 18th century and its direct ties to enslaved labor.
We have two new chocolate curriculums. One is geared towards 4th and 5th grade, the other is geared towards high school students.
Emily Spence is the digital resource and curriculum manager at the Old North Church, as well as the narrator narrator of the new digital cacao and colonial chocolate lessons available to teachers nationwide.
The high school curriculum is 5 lessons, and it traces the history of chocolate. Students are looking at primary sources, newspaper ads, runaway slave ads, to learn about chocolate in Boston as well, and that connection to enslaved labor. The last lesson is more of a call to action, looking at the use of child labor in chocolate today, researching the use of child labor in other industries, and how can they, as high school students, do something to try and put an end to the use of child labor in those industries.
But why now? And why has the foundation made it a priority to reach students spanning the entire country? And what does the foundation hope to achieve with these new virtual lessons?
This creation of these chocolate curriculums, it coincided with our discoveries about Newark Jackson, that we had a chocolate shop here where we demonstrated chocolate making and interpreted the history of chocolate in Boston in the 18th century.
Upon closer inspection of the probate records filed after Captain Newark Jackson's death, it was revealed that he kept people enslaved in his own home and that they were considered taxable property by the state.
As we look through this list, we find the names of 3 people who lived in Boston and were enslaved by Newark Jackson: Wareham, Boston, and Seiler. Let's look at the language used to describe these people. They are identified as property. They are described by their skin color using a word common in the colonial era. These are examples of objectification and racism.
Upon learning about Newark Jackson's connection to enslaved labor and trafficking of enslaved labor, it really was a moment for us to take a step back and say, how could we be interpreting this in a different way and really helping people to ask the questions that we now are asking ourselves too. Yes, chocolate is something fun and we can relate to it and we enjoy it, but there is a deeper history to it, and other people may have a different relationship with it.
The Old North Church's reimagined history and virtual chocolate lessons come at a time of social awakening in this country, a reissuance of social justice and societal awareness. Hopefully, the revised telling of stories past from overlooked institutions will lead to a shared history with which all Americans can identify and be proud. And you can get free access to the cacao and colonial chocolate curriculum for 5th graders and high schoolers by visiting the Old North Church website. And we'll have the links on our CityLine page on WCVB.com. Coming up, the life and music of Zenzile Miriam Makeba. Her journey as a singer, songwriter, actress, United Nations Goodwill Ambassador, and civil rights activist. That's next on CityLine.